I'm back. Two infamous words, iterated by Mr. Ernest himself, Michael Jordan, when he returned back from retirement the first time. If you've seen The Last Dance, the docuseries on Michael Jordan on Netflix, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, please go watch it. It was a must watch. It literally got me through the initial part of the pandemic when I didn't have sports and I didn't know what to do or watch. It was so amazing and so cool. So, with that, welcome back to the ABCDs of Sports podcast. I am your captain, Samita Nand. It's so good to be back. Thank you so much for spending good, great quality time with me. It is the week of January 13th. I hope you all had a fantastic, wonderful holiday. Happy New Year to you all. Excited to have a wonderful 2025 with all of you. I can't can't wait, can't imagine what's gonna come this year, but I'm excited and I think it's gonna be a lot of fun with all of you. So as always, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Quick reminder, we are on all platforms. That would be Amazon Prime, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, you name it. We're on there. So feel free to share with family and friends. I just want, we need more and more teammates, as many teammates as we can get. Let's do it. So here we go. As always, let's always start with our game plan. All right. We're here for the game plan. As always, with the game plan, we start with our magic number, referencing Mike Greenberg's book, Got Your Number. We are here with number 12 because it's game 12. And this is a no-brainer. I mean, anybody and anybody knows who number 12 should belong to, and it does belong to Mr. Tom Brady, the GOAT, greatest of all time when it comes to NFL and football. Guy is so amazing. Here's a few small stuff, not even like a fingertip of all the cool things that this guy is about and his accolades and accomplishments. I'll start with him being the 199th pick of the 2000 NFL draft. 199th. 198 people were picked ahead of him, and he surpassed them all. And included in that 198 is six quarterbacks. Six quarterbacks were picked before Tom Brady in the draft that he was picked. And not one of them won more than 5 games as a starter. Not one of them. And he surpassed them all with most wins ever. I mean, it's crazy. The guy played in 10, count them, 10 Super Bowls. There's about five teams right now that have never even made the Super Bowl, and he's been to 10 of them. He's got 7 Super Bowl wins, more than any other team. 7. He lost 3 of them, but in the 3 games slash Super Bowls that he lost, he only threw 1 interceptions and threw 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. He could have won those games easily. I mean, it really took like an amazing effort on the other side. In Super Bowl 52, he threw a postseason record of 505 passing yards, no interceptions, 33 points. His team never punted, and he lost. Can you believe that? I mean, that Philadelphia Eagles were playing out of their mind that game to win that Super Bowl. I mean, it took every little ounce of everything they got. Everybody remembers the Philly special. I mean, they took games and plays like that, like the Philly special that had to beat a guy like Tom Brady who was throwing for 505 yards. Whew. His probably best ever Super Bowl was Super Bowl 51, the 25-point comeback against the Atlanta Falcons. They were down 28-3, and they came back and won the game in overtime. What's even more incredible about that game that he led that comeback was that no other team since or before had come back from 10 points. He did from 25, and nobody had come back from 10 points. One last fun thing that I learned was that the combination of his coach, Bill Belichick, that he was coach with in New England. So the combination of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady posted 249 wins together. No other duo, quarterback coach duo, is within 100 games of that win total. Whoa, 100 games. I mean, that's crazy. That's dominance. Is just you have like I said, you always have to tip your hat to greatness. I hated him a lot when he beat me and my Chargers and that way, but you can't deny how incredible the guy is. All right, let's go to our games of the week. Yes, I said games because I got two for you. We'll start off with Sunday, January 19th at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. We have the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Buffalo Bills. Yep, we're in the thick of the NFL playoffs. Things are going fun and crazy right now with that. And these are two incredible, fun teams to watch and two incredible teams, Super Bowl contenders. They have what is going to be our players to watch. Mr. Lamar Jackson for the Baltimore Ravens, Mr. Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills, two MVP candidates, your prior front runners for the MVP award. And uh, this game probably bears nothing in terms of that voting because it's supposed to be a regular season award. But I mean, whoever wins this game gets a big step towards their legacy. Now they'll have to go through the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's a story for another day. But the one of these guys will, it will take a heroic Superman effort from one of them to beat the other and take their team to the next level and continue that path to a Super Bowl win. Our other game of the week is on January 20th. It's the College Football Championship. The first ever time that we had the college football bracket of 12 teams was this year. And now those 12 teams have been dwindled down to two. And so on January 20th, um, we have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on the Ohio State University Buckeyes. Two storied colleges, two some of the infamous colleges when it comes to college football royalty, and they're going head to head for the first ever 12 team playoff bracket. Pretty amazing. Um, Players to watch for Notre Dame, it's the quarterback, Mr. Riley Leonard. I mean, if you look at his stat sheet, it is it doesn't look much, but uh, the guy has heart. The guy is amazing. He really, really is super competitive and wills his team to win. And every time they need a play or something, when the game's like on the line, he somehow pulls something out of his hat because it's pretty incredible at his level to see that. There's not too many people that have it at college pro level, but he's got it. On the other side, at Ohio State University, the wide receiver, Mr. Jeremiah Smith, the guy's only a freshman, and the guy is incredible. He looks like he's ready to play in the pros. It's so amazing to watch. I saw him when they were taking on Oregon in the quarterfinal round, and I mean, he shredded them. He had already over 100 yards receiving before the first half, but practically in the first quarter, he had it, and he just was just uncoverable. He just was all over the place. He didn't do so well in the semifinal, but Texas had a great defense, probably one of the best in the nation, and they had game plan to set up so that he didn't beat them. So, but it opened up a lot for his other teammates, and hence that's why Ohio State won. But looks like a big game player. I got a feeling they're going to get game plan to put him back in and get it out. And then if Ohio State's going to win, they're going to need him to be there and involved. So I'd keep an eye out for him. He's number 4 on Ohio State. All right, guys. Now let's introduce our new teammate. All right, team. I am super duper duper excited for you to meet one of my favorite cousins, Dr. Snehal Gandhi. He's joining our team today. Quick background on him. So he is my mom's eldest brothers and siblings' youngest child. And but we've been hitting it out for the last like 24 plus years. Remember you and your family came over and to my sister's sweet 16, and you came up to me personally that day, and you said, "You know what? I feel like I've been disconnected to the family as is everybody else, and I'm going to make a conscious effort to be more connected." And you've lived up to your word since then, my friend. I
Mm.
have loved it, and I have enjoyed like all the fun stories that you have said and hang out with your fam. I mean, still today, people talk about how your kids performed at my and Ummer's wedding, and kind of stole the show a little bit. And then they even hear about your little fun little escapade too. That way, when you followed it that way, they still
The
like,
log
yeah, it
rollover.
could be a good sport. It was the yep the classic rollover. So it was awesome. So I'm
Thank you.
excited. I thank you so much for being part of this with me and joining this journey. And I always love hearing you talk and hearing your story. So I can't wait to hear your story and share it with all the rest of our teammates out there.
Well, likewise, thank you. Appreciate you asking me, and I'll try to live up to the billing. But
Oh, no,
I tend to underperform. So
no, you don't. You always bring you say that and you're like, well, we'll start. We'll just go with
let
it right now. And so, what is your favorite sport, my friend?
me think. I don't know if I have a favorite sport. I don't. I think I'm probably out of the idea of what's favorite and what isn't. I think I like to the geometry, and then each sport has its own variables that I would like. So right now, I'm most interested in college football. I think
Ah,
I like college football. I think there's a small town feel about college football that seems to bind you know, an area together, a community together.
hmm.
That's important. I love the rah-rahness, the energy, the hype for it. My kids are going through college, so obviously I follow them. And so for those reasons, in fact, actually in my front yard, I have all the flags of the colleges my kids go to. And
That's
so
awesome.
it's yeah, it's fun. So I think for that reason, I played a lot of tennis in my youthful days, and it was pretty competitive. So I think I
Hmm.
understand that sport the most in terms of the intricacies, and I'm able to have a conversation with people and at a level which seems to be more detailed. So I think like that. Um, so I think those are the kind of venues like the Olympics, just for the ideals of the Olympics, but also the world coming together. I think there's a binding thing about the world coming together. I enjoy that. I've kind of I think I like basketball. I kind of saw the shift in the basketball that I grew up with in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s when Jordan was winning and being a Chicago, you know, boy, that becomes easy to follow. But there was a game that I can understand better than the current game now. I think the current game is I think it's wonderful for a lot of people, but it doesn't seem to resonate as deeply as with me as with
Hmm.
and in general when I played sports and whenever from organized or intramurals or anything, I picked a defensive mode, be it a
Yeah.
goalie defense or cornerback or something. I'd always be that way, and I always thought I'm always in the game if I'm playing defense versus
Ah.
offense. It's kind of so when I see like basketball now, it seems like it's not as defensive oriented. It's about position strategy. It's great, but it is not as defensively oriented. So I don't see myself as closely following basketball, professional basketball. The ones that but I did see a little bit of women's basketball, and that seems pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's growing. All right. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff that I heard. College football, tennis, and Olympics are the big three. We're gonna get into all three of these. I'll start with college football, mostly because your youngest daughter's at Penn State, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they just lost last week in the college football playoff, unfortunately,
Yeah.
in the
Good.
semifinal against Notre Dame.
Good game.
That must have been a heartbreaker.
No, I mean
Yeah.
yeah. I think I think it would have went a different way, but it's a good game. Again, the game went competitive,
Yeah.
and the program they lost to is a good program. It's an honest program, and and you saw, and I didn't see all the games. I was traveling, but I saw parts of it. But I saw right afterwards, people were there. There wasn't bad mouthing or trash talking, or it was just it was a good game. I love the competitive flow of it. It could have went either way, and I think from what I saw, the parts of the game I saw, I thought Penn
Uh,
State had more of a control of the game in their hands
yeah.
than Notre Dame. But I think you can. I'm sure that's more through a bias lens, but I think you can make an argument that Penn State had a little bit, maybe slightly better team, or could have had a better tactic to win. They had to play more
Yeah.
within themselves to win. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they had a good opportunity in that first half too, but they just weren't putting it away with their drives, and so then it gave kind of Notre Dame still hope, and plus their quarterback Leonard kind of did like a Willis Reed and came in, right, even though it wasn't anything, but it still was it felt a little Willis Reed and kind of inspired his team, and then they went with it and got it in there, so caught
The
away that way.
1970 reference, man. I love it.
No, that's interesting. For our casual teammates out there, so Willis Reed was a New York Knick. He infamously came back to Game 7 on their last NBA championship that they came out there after having a really bad injury. He only played 2 minutes, but it inspired them to win Game 7. So it's a huge, huge reference where New York fans will always go back to that and say, it was a heroic moment that really inspired a whole team and carried a whole team that way. Even though in terms of the whole stat, you didn't do much, but it's still pretty cool. And so uh, quarterback for Notre Dame Leonard kind of did that this past week. It brings me to this. What are your thoughts on this college football playoff format that
Mm.
they've done? This 12-team format. How do you think this is
Well,
going in that
yeah.
way?
Um, well, the I think you learn a lot by mistakes, and I think I think if you didn't do it the way they did it this way, you wouldn't have
Uh-huh.
the impetus to change it.
Yeah.
Right. So when they selected 12 and they automatically gave the conferences, okay, so that was, there was a reason for that, and then they gave them buys, and they thought there was a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
And I think most people would agree, and I'll tell you what my opinion is, but I'll tell you most will agree that the 12 that got in was a good worthy set of 12. But most people now would disagree that they should have how they seeded them. Right,
Yeah.
right. That
I
makes
think,
sense. And I think
yeah.
on the margins, you'll start noticing the South Carolinas, the Alabamas. Do they get
Yeah.
in and not get in? Things like that. Some,
Miami was
Miami,
one.
yeah, Miami. And you start noticing, I think you can argue that. But I think that maybe the vast majority would say these 12 were a good set, a good data set to start with. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say. But the seeding could have been would be was now we now know better not to seed this way.
Yeah. So I mean, you're probably hinting on, so for our casual fans, the all the conference championships of the top five conferences got automatic playoff spots, which I don't think any of us are arguing with. But the top four conference champions got buys. Now, the interesting part of it is that I think all four, if that's correct, all four conference champions lost after their buys, which is interesting. Now, you could argue that they were the what do you call it, weaker teams that were put in there. That's what you're saying. So you're probably thinking that it should be a little bit more kind of like March Madness and NCAA. That sure, give them the automatic playoff spot, but don't give them the automatic bye, and just give them like maybe that home game in the first round if they're not in that really overall top 12 ranking. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about I still don't, I haven't pieced it out together myself to want to give you a
Yeah.
answer that's worthy of the discussion. But it seems like to me that so first of all, having a bye in football may or may not be a good thing, but they already have a bye after a prolonged period of abstinence, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's if you have a 1 week, if you're playing week to week and they have a bye, there's a significant advantage.
Yeah.
If you don't play for about 4 weeks and then you have a bye, so if you actually lose a lot of the advantage you have because so I think there's a disadvantage. On the other hand, having an extra one less game to play means you have one less game to have injuries. Football, among all the sports,
Yeah.
is due to, I mean, is prone to injuries, right? And that changes a
Yeah.
lot of, the scheme. So anyway, I think there's something about the buys. I would, yeah, I think, boy, I think that one of the things that, how do I say, the group of five champion
Yeah.
was seeded number three, Boise, right? Um, and
Yes.
and they didn't do very well, right? Um,
They gave Penn State a little bit of a fight, but granted, Penn State was in control of that whole game. I agree with you.
yeah, and I think what I mean is that, and I'm not saying they weren't worthy of it, but I
Yeah.
think what happens is that there's a lot of conversation, and I think there's a small sample size, but there's a lot of conversation. The group of five can never have a chance to get in, and then this is important.
Yeah.
They do have a chance to get in, but then automatically putting a group of five at a number three seed when they haven't played enough of the people, in the group of four, I guess power,
Yeah, the Power Four.
the power four. I think there
Hmm.
has to be that. And now I think that's important to know that in college football, and this is what makes it unique, you're not getting balanced schedules, and that's the beauty and the uniqueness of it. I think it's pretty cool. I think
Yeah.
it's cool. I think Boise State was it 2007. I think that's when they made they beat Oklahoma, I think.
That's correct. That
Right,
is
right.
correct. The
The
Fiesta
Statue of
Bowl.
Liberty paid, right? Okay, the
Yep,
Statue
yep,
of
yep.
Liberty paid. Okay, and I think those are cool, and I think that's what the beautiful thing about playing in college football is. Um, but the seeding part has to be. I think it should be done a little bit differently.
Hmm.
In the ways it's been done. I'm not saying that it's been perfect. I don't think we can get it right, anyways, because it's so much. It's subjective, and that's
Yes.
and the anchor effect and everything like that happens too. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. Going back real quick, right? I mean, you were talking about the big layoff. I mean, that's what happened with Oregon. Oregon didn't play a game for a month.
Yeah,
Well, yep, and Ohio State had a couple, had
yeah,
a couple of games in between and that way. So that made a difference. And Oregon was the number one seed overall in this thing, and they had
yeah. I
gotten
mean,
competed.
yeah. It's one has
Yeah,
one has spring training and one doesn't. So, but Oklahoma. I mean, Ohio State seemed to be a superior team.
they
Um,
did. They did. And to be honest, talent wise, they are probably more talented.
but I
So,
will I will say something else and I would say of I'm not a fan of playoff. I'd rather stick to the old position of bowls.
oh, how come?
Yeah. So okay. So I'm gonna date this in the 1970s,
Uh-huh.
um, and maybe the 80s, but the 70s was a big time. So you have to kind of understand. I'm trying to get to. I'm not as inclined to know who the number one is. In who number one is.
Okay.
I'd rather have a discussion who I think number one is. It means more meaningfulness, but there's more than one. There's more than one answer here, Sumit. So there's more
Yeah.
than one reason. So I want to make sure I parse this out. So I'd rather have a discussion with you. Let's just say, what do you think of the 79 champs or the 94? Can this be this? Can this be no that kind of stuff? Okay. I'd rather have that discussion, which will be endless, and we will not, come to a conclusion, but it'd be a
Mhm.
good meal and it'll be a good evening, for a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Second, the best teams are not always the winners, it's on the left on the field. I
Yeah.
can we go through a number of sporting events for that. It's people down the field, injuries and things like that. And the other thing is this is probably the biggest thing. The romantic side of me suggests that the last game you ever play and you win is the most meaningful game that you ever have. So with
Mhm.
all these bowls, okay, let's just say there's at this time, I can't tell you what the amount of bowls there were back in the when I was a kid, when I was following this closely, but there was four New Year's Day bowls, the
Yeah.
rose, the orange, the sugar, and the cotton in that order.
Yeah.
Fiesta was not around, Peach was not. They were around, but they were earlier and
Yeah.
but you would have a number three playing a number five or number one against number seven or two against four or something like that. And everyone we played, there was not like people sitting out. Last year, Marvin Harrison, he sat out, and didn't look. I mean, the team didn't. So it was like it became a meaningless game when your best players are not playing. But back then, you
Yeah.
didn't have people, sitting out. They were trying to go for number one or trying to win their last game. So why is
Yeah.
that important? Okay, now you look at the town itself, small town USA, stuff like that. It is so historic and say, okay, back in '63, we were the best, best team. So now let's just say you take today. Let's just say you won the Rose Bowl, okay? Ohio
Hmm.
State is, but now they're losing national champ. We're the Rose Bowl champions, but we are not the national champion. Your last game beat this last game that you lose supersedes the victories you had beforehand.
Yeah.
And I think you have a lot more people involved and happy about their lives, or relieved, not, or just a little pop in their step. I'm not saying to live through happiness through these teams, but you get the idea of the community being, centered around a singular team, and you have a hero or set of heroes made on that particular day that little kids will see forever. They're not heroes anywhere else in the world, but they were heroes in that small town USA. So to me, that makes it much, much more invested into a game than just the ultimate number one. Because with number one means everyone else is not, and that tells you
Yeah.
something. So
No, you bring up a good point. You bring up a good point that we're, if you shoot for a number one and have a number one, no, but you have a million losers, and not everybody can have that joy and peace that way and that way. And there's me, right? And not first off, there's only a handful of teams that will ever vie for the national championship every year, right? But with the way how it's going in the cause of the playoff, you've taken away the those teams that won't have that were never vying for it, shooting for it to have a good happy ending goal that way. And that's what bowl games used to. But I mean, I think a lot of it has gone has been diluted because they exponentially increased the number of bowls that are out there, right? To the the brand of all this stuff has changed and that no, like a player doesn't even stay with a college football team anymore for like a year or two with all these, nil stuff and transfer portals. And they all they care about is their brand and their imaging and then how it's going to translate in uh the next level at the pro level if they're going pro or if they're not going, then if they're maximizing that as well. So it's I mean part of it is like this college sports and NCAA doesn't it doesn't have good strong leadership or
no, I mean, no, you put a good point on here, and I was just going to highlight some couple of things real quick, just so, NC State did beat Houston, but Houston would beat them the other 97 times they play. You know,
yeah
Villanova beat Georgetown and vice versa. You
yeah
know, um, um, did Buster can would have Buster Douglas beat Tyson again? I'm just saying he certainly didn't win much after that, right? I mean,
no
and then the Patriots beat the Rams, and that was a surprise. So there are points in which there's just enough sample size. The best team's not always the clear winners. It's closer to home
yes
in St. Louis. Cardinals lost to the Red Sox, 4-0, but the Sox were on the hot streak because I think it's 0-4. When they were down, I think 3-0 to the Yankees, and they swept the Yankees, swept the Cardinals. But Cardinals, I think they won 106 that year. So it was
yeah
something that, right? So, and you see that, and then when Cardinals won, I think it was an 11 or something. They were on a hot streak, So what I'm not saying it's not valid. I'm just saying, you know, it's living on the field does not mean always the best player. It just means whatever I'm saying. I did the other thing I was going to say is I agree with you. It's easier to follow college football than it is college basketball because
hmm
college basketball is one and done.
yeah
And not everyone, but there's enough of that. There's such a hype to the superstar, to
yeah
Zeons or stuff like that. Then there's a letdown, and so the quality of college basketball may be actually poorer, than
hmm
it has to be because you have freshman superstars, but they would never have been super first stars if the other guys still stayed on.
yeah
So you see that. So in college football, you saw the story grow with the person. Now after 3 years, many of them leave, but it's
yeah
it's it's three better than it used to be four, but now it's three, and it's better than one. That's what I'm saying. So, and yeah, you're
yeah
right.
but
People moving around, yeah, it's tough.
yes I
Tough.
mean I'll give you an example, right? The starting quarterback of Georgia, Carson Beck, right?
Yeah.
He's the heir apparent. He's the one who's supposed to be leading it back. He got hurt, right before their playoff game, and uh, Donald Stockton is now the guy, and he performed adequately well, so he's taken over, and so Beck decides I'm going to go in the transfer portal, right? And he's got his last year of eligibility before he goes off to the pros, if he's going to go to the pros. That way.
Yeah, I think he
So
went back and forth, but I wonder how
yeah,
much what he was going to command as a pro versus going to command as NIL.
it was
So
a, I mean, I don't know. I think he's going to try and maximize that, right? And he's going to go to a program that he can try and win it all with. I mean, Quinn Ewers was part of Ohio State before the last couple of years he's in part of Texas, and now he's graduating and he's going to do it that way. But it's there's a lot that I do miss the nostalgia, and I think they've lost the nostalgia in college football because
Yeah,
they
and yeah, I mean, I was coming from a romantic side of point of view,
yeah,
like
yeah, no, it's
where
but you
where
still
stories are made.
I'm with you. I'm with you on this that I know sports as a business has become a huge business. And now it's doing it at all levels. I mean, we see it at the youth sports level too. Uh, but at a college level is super important that you have that because it's helped set up. I've said it on the podcast 100 times, and I'll say it a million times over that the fan base that you're catering to is these college students that have. They've always said that college was the best time of their life, and they always remember that part, and they become fans for life because of the memories that they build in that college with the college teams that they get a part of because I can't say now because I haven't been to a college in a long time, but I remember one year I was at UCLA in 2000, and like the sports totally engulfed the whole campus, and everybody's like totally. And with college students, they're always wild, they're always crazy, and college sports atmospheres are some of the best atmospheres, if not the best in the world because of how much passion there's involved with it. And then when they keep chasing the dollar for it, and now it's even that, you know, with it involving the athletes and their money, now them making money too, it's the passion is not being the forefront and it's being lost.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about that,
Mhm.
and when it comes to money, sometimes where money liberates, right,
Yeah,
people from destitute potentially to, you know, and sets up a future, but it can also be poisonous when it gets so caught up in the identity of yourself or what you think you can be worth through this method that
yeah,
greed comes in and greed, so it can be liberating at the same time. It can also lead to, it can be poisonous, right?
yeah,
And so there's some of that. I don't know if you can ever come to a strong conclusion one way or the other, but we can at least agree at the that the enthusiasm, the purity of enthusiasm of the
Mhm.
game itself, the surrounding itself is sometimes needed in this kind of a situation that sometimes can offset some of the greedier parts of it. I think something like
yeah.
that. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. I sometimes need like someone like Bob Costas to come in and expound upon that.
Oh
He's
man,
so
I mean
he's
that legend and
he
he's that way.
speaks so eloquently and so poignantly, so
Mhm.
it's so in that sense. So but yeah, yeah, you're right. I think there's so much of that. And there was, and let me make no mistake, it's not the kids who are doing it. I mean, they're 18, 19, 20, 21. It's also there's a lot of money takes a lot of advantage of a lot of different things,
Yeah,
and it's and people take advantage of that. They don't believe in themselves to earn money another way. They
yeah,
believe it's this way, and that's the only way I can make money. So
no,
it's and getting too much money is an overcorrection of ambition, right? So
yeah.
so it's when you get so much money into it. So
Okay. All right, I'm gonna totally segue here. I want to know about tennis because I got a feeling it's gonna be that way. Well, tell me about your journey with tennis.
oh, my
And
journey. Oh,
yeah,
so so our grandfather played. I don't know if you know that as he played. He played in
does you
college.
got
Yeah, he did. He played in college.
Whoa.
He played lawn tennis. Okay, and I
Okay.
was told he was on the college team, and I was told he was good.
Wow.
And then my father played. So your mama, my dad
Yeah.
played, and he was on the college team, and he was good with anything with a bat in his hand. He was good, and he was probably he seemed like an avid sportsman, and he's like you. He would see as much sports as he could absorb as much. And you'd probably love to have him on your podcast if he's
Oh, it
if
was
he was
like
alive.
Ramesh.
Yeah,
So for our casual ones, that's Ramesh Gandhi or my Ramesh mama, and this is Snehal Gandhi for me. But yeah, so that's my mom's eldest brother and eldest sibling that way. But so I mean, I remember sometimes the only time I could get a conversation more than 5 minutes with him was when we talked about like the Chicago Bulls.
really.
I loved it. I loved it so much. We sat there and we talked about it in that way. So I mean, it's so true. So I mean, explain more though. So he was into tennis too because his dad was into tennis.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, so tennis was a kind of it became a big thing in our family, and apparently, so I think I had a knack for for a moving ball, and a bat.
Yeah.
I apparently there's some videos of me back in with the with the with the projector cameras and stuff like that. That I was chasing a bat. I'm chasing a ball with a bat and stuff like that. Daji playing with me, your grandfather, our grandfather playing with me, in the front porch of our home. And so my dad had that. And so tennis came in the 1970s, and it was a boom, and it was a boom in the U.S. and the world, but in the U.S. it certainly was a combination of some superstar players and just the fact that it became this thing, and so
Yeah, I
Chris
mean, you're
Everett,
talking about right. Yes, you're saying Chris Everett, right? That's the
Chris
Everett
Everett and
of
Jimmy
really.
Connors were the
Yeah.
best two players in the world, or among the top two or three players in the world. But they're also young and dynamic and brash
Yeah.
and bolder. Connors was, and Everett was the girl next door. So they tennis it took off like a fire in the U.S. So you have
Mhm.
that, and so you have that public awareness of tennis, and its importance was increasing. Television was on, tennis was on television all the time. And then my dad was playing tennis all the time. He and his buddy at work, I think his boss for many years, but they played all the time. And
Mm.
I would actually, and be right in front of us. We had public courts right in front of us, and they would play, and I would go watch. Or I'm playing something around there, and I'd go watch, and and it was so busy back then. You had to put your racket up in these designated spots to see who's next to play tennis. So when it got so busy, you can only play tennis for 1 hour or one set, whichever came first, and then the next people
Mm.
come on. So these are public courts, 8 courts, and you had this all the time in the afternoon and the evenings. So imagine how much tennis there was being played. Chicago was a center for tennis. I think at that time, it was Southern California and Chicago as one and two in terms of
Yeah.
tennis, and so tennis became a big thing. So you look at the fact that I had a knack, I had exposure, and it was important. I started playing tennis. I started playing tennis, but after 2 or 3 or 4 years or 5 years of watching tennis avidly on television, I just watched it and watched it and stuff like that. And my dad would watch, and I would watch, and the friends would come down. There were things called challenge matches in the early '70s, and
Uh-huh.
and the challenge match is winner take all, and it'd be someone like Jimmy Connors against John Newcomb. I was the
Uh-huh.
guy going for Jimmy Connors, and I don't know why, but today I wouldn't want to. Jimmy Connors was a bit brash, and and what he did was sometimes embarrassing. But man, was he engaging to us kids, And John Newcomb represented old school, right? So
Yeah.
and so so anyway, so with that being said, we'd watch that winner take all, and Connors would win, and like, yeah, my guy won, that kind of stuff. So you had all this adrenaline of watching all the people you want to watch win and all that kind of stuff. So it became natural. I started playing tennis. So that's how I journeyed into it.
What age were you when you started
Oh,
playing?
I started playing at, see, I was 11. I was old.
Oh,
And
okay.
but then I took off. So prior to that, I played a whole bunch of other sports all the time. And then when started playing tennis, I started falling off of most everything else, And I started playing every day. My courts were across the street. I could throw. There were maybe a little bit more than 100 yards, no, 75 yards down the street. I can see from my window which courts were open and stuff like that. So I started playing, and there's a lot of people playing at the time. Kids my age were playing because it was a popular sport, and I took lessons within the second week of playing. I played my dad all the time. I just played, and then it just took off. And I became pretty good at it. So I started later than most of my colleagues that I was playing against. My competitors, most of my competitors played between 5 and 8 or 1 through 5, that kind of stuff. And there's a kid who was really really good. He started playing as two, and his
Yeah.
and that's back then. And the rumor was that his dad put $20,000 back then, which is you multiply that by 5 to 7 times, and that's what he invests into his son to play better.
Oh
And he
my
was
God, that's like $1 million
yeah,
bucks. Oh my
close, at least over 100K. And
Yeah.
he was really good. He's a really nice kid, but he was, he turned out to be NCAA champion, many years later. So, and it's in our state champ and stuff like that. And he's a good kid, real. So we played against people like him and played. It was fun, So
That's awesome. And so, I mean, it's interesting. So that tennis bonded you with your dad, which also helped you then with tennis also helped bond with your friends and playing the game that way, correct? So like it was kind of your way of how you assimilate between the two cultures.
yeah, I think my dad and I just had an awesome relationship with it without tennis. But
Yeah.
tennis was one of the other men. We'd watch football together. We'd do that.
Yeah.
And then in terms of bonding, my dad would throw the football to me. While we're watching the game. And I pretend to be a wide. This is in our basement. Like my dad would sit there, just throw the ball. He'd throw in some knuckleballs. Just so I can get better, and I'd be a wide receiver. And I do that. This is we didn't break anything, thank God. But it was that kind of stuff. But my dad, yeah, and then I played tennis, and we played together, and we played in a doubles tournament together once, and it was fun. It was a lot of good things, a lot of good memories at the time. So, and yeah,
So
and in terms of friends and stuff, yeah, socially, I was the only Indian kid. I was about a year younger than everyone, but I had a ton of friends with or without tennis. But in terms of prestige of being an accomplished athlete, that came with
mm,
you know that came
yeah.
and in high school in that era where I lived at that era, that prestige seemed to kind of uplifted you started doing the John Travolta walk. No, I'm just kidding. From Saturday Night Fever. So
Yeah.
no, but you had a certain. At least I internally I felt that. Put it that way. So.
Cool. That's so cool. Now, is it safe to say that Jimmy Connors was your favorite athlete?
Yeah, at that time, yeah, absolutely. Tennis was my favorite, and I think Dr. J also, from basketball. But Jimmy
Uh,
Connors is the one I've always wanted to win, and always when he lost, it hurt. So
Interesting. Uh, cool. Very cool. Now, what's your favorite watch sports moment?
let me think. Let me think. That's a good one. I want to say something in the Olympics,
Okay.
and I go from 1972.
Okay.
I'm not certain if it's a most watched or because I bonded my dad with this. So
Uh-huh.
Jesse Owens,
Yes.
the fabled athlete from 1936 Olympics, and
Yep.
he proved wrong to Hitler's theory of the Aryan race was superior when he won the 4 gold medals in record time, I believe, too, in the 100 meters,
Yep.
in
Yep.
the 100, 200, etc. Okay, so he got all that. Carl Lewis did many years later. Okay, so when my dad and I were watching the Munich Olympics, and they showed Jesse Owens in the stand, and look at an older man, but he's probably younger than me now. But at that time, and my dad said, and they said Jesse Owens, and I asked my dad, is he an A plus? And my dad said he was an A plus plus plus, and that was our
Hmm.
way of communicating. Like this is the greatest thing of all. I never even heard of someone being an A plus plus plus. So I'm
Yeah.
7 years old, and I'm thinking, wow, this guy must be unbelievable. Never heard of an A plus 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 designation to anyone. So that could have been it, or the Mark Spitz Olympics.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah. It was
when he won
84,
so
right?
much because we were watching intently,
Mhm.
fervently, and
Uh-huh.
or the '76 Nadia Comaneci when she won the gold medals. Once she won she had 7 brilliant scores, and she won all these gold medals, and I think she had a silver or bronze somewhere, but she was unbelievable. Those were the. I want to think. I think I want to say, and I didn't see this, but I remember my buddy Dan and I from grade school the day after the fight between Ali and Foreman Zaire when Ali was won. We heard about it, like because we couldn't watch that kind of stuff
Yeah.
back then, pay per view, and we never had that kind of capacity. But we heard about it and said, no, that was something. Um, then there was one, I think, when Connors beat McEnroe.
Mm.
82 in 82 in Wimbledon in five, so I think it was 6-3 in the fifth. And I only heard about it again. I was missing in action. I was on my way to pre-med, and we heard on we were en route in bus. I saw it in the newspaper, bought the newspaper, and wow, that was one of those kind of things. I'm sure if I could find other ones, but as time went on, and then the Bears winning, I think. But then times went
In
on.
1985, the
Yeah,
Chicago
yeah,
Bears won the Super
yeah.
Bowl.
My
Mhm.
identity, my personal identity, was not intertwined with the outcomes of of the teams that I followed. I think it was nice when the Bulls won, and it felt really good, Chicago and everything. But I don't think so. I think it's more of a childhood, favorite sports moments and stuff like that. And I'm sure if I think more deeply, I could find other ways and twists and turns. You know, I think seeing Ali in '96, that was pretty good when he showed up. When he was shown, to the world in Atlanta. Those kind
Yeah,
of things.
and
That
carried
that
the torch in 1996 in Atlanta, and
yeah,
to light it right before. Yeah, that was another iconic moment.
those kind of
Okay.
those kind of things I can probably
Yeah,
find.
yeah. So with that, how many Olympics have you gone to? Because
Oh, the
yeah,
So two that we had tickets for three, but two we went to, the 12 and the 16.
uh,
But the 21 Olympics, the COVID Olympics, we had some really good seats. We were lucky. We were going to be in the opening ceremony. I'm not in the
oh
opening.
my
We're going to be
God, in
yeah. We
2020.
2020. So we had the best. I mean, we couldn't get tickets better if we would have asked for them ourselves. But we had
Yeah.
tickets in the center, like the first or second row, upper bowl right there. So the way I was told is that for the opening ceremony, the base, the two levels, the lower bowl and the upper bowl. The lower bowl is offered the athletes and dignitaries. For the non-athletes and for the general mass, the upper
Yeah.
bowl for us. And so we had the first or second row. I can't remember exactly
Oh,
when, but right in the 50. So we had. I mean, I don't. It's good fortune, and of course we lost that. And I wanted. Japan was the Olympics I've always wanted to watch. It's a little bit to a nod to Japan from um, watching You Only Live Twice, and Sean Connery James Bond from the late '60s. That was about
yeah.
Japan, so I've always wanted to go to Japan for that connection. And that was all perfect. We were set up, and the kids were all we're gonna do it well, And that was gonna be my last hurrah moment of the Olympics. But COVID hit, we lost that, and the following year there was no Olympics, participation.
Yeah, they're allowing fans up there,
Yeah,
so
so that was it. I don't think I'll be going to anymore. I think the one in 28, um
you're not gonna come down
that's
to LA and hang out with me?
yeah, and I think that's the one we have to talk about as a family. We should
Yeah.
all try to get everyone to go in to get there and stuff like that. But but that's going to be easier to go through versus going, across, the
Yes, I mean, and there's something about traveling, abroad and internationally to experience a sporting event and seeing that way. I get it versus like something local, but still, I think it's going to be an epic thing here in LA and watching it that way. So I can't wait for that, and I can't wait to share that with you. But when you come down, which games did you watch really quickly in the 2012 and 16 Olympics? Like, what events did you watch?
So we saw in 12 in the London Olympics. Actually, it was a hard one for me to watch. My father was on his deathbed, and I had to be there, and it's kind of weird.
Hmm.
My dad just got diagnosed with cancer and things like that, so it was kind of hard. And he used to come with us to the Olympics, and I only went because of there's security risk for my family, so it's like tossing, turning. But seeing so that could be my favorite Olympic, my best moment. I can tell you, this is my best moment. Now I realize this. We're going to the Olympic Village, and it's a common place where everyone walks in, the world walks in. And I had it when my son was with me, and I said, look at this. And I told him this pretty much here. Took photographs of this and said, look at what we're seeing right now. When I said, this is what we're seeing this for Bay. That's
Hmm.
my father's, obviously, doesn't he? And we saw a whole mass of me. So that was the moment. I remember that, we saw, thousands and thousands of people of all parts of the world just kind of going towards it. It was is unifying, right? And
Yeah,
what you want to see. So that was my favorite moment by far.
that's
Um,
surreal. That's
yeah,
surreal.
it's captured in my head permanent. It's rolled, and it's just one of those things that is. So to answer your question, we saw swimming,
Uh-huh.
some of the early rounds. We saw some of the important, including Phelps. It was the Phelps Olympics. So it was basically everything was Phelps Olympics whenever he
Yeah.
participated. But it was in 12. He only won 6 that year, I believe. So 6 gold.
Only six.
Yeah, he must have pulled something. And so we saw him, and so we saw that. Then we saw the men's gymnastics, a gold medal in the ceremony. So
Hmm.
we saw that, and then we saw some arch. I'm not sorry, some cycling. So
Okay.
those are the kind of package deals that there are. You get one, you get the other, and that kind of stuff. So we got them. That's on the individual is very hard to get for the group of, I think we had like 7 people go, but only 5 when mom and dad didn't go. So, but
Yeah.
one of my daughter's friends came though. Yeah. So,
Oh,
um,
cool.
yeah. So that was that. And at 16, we saw women's gymnastics. We saw
Okay.
swimming again. Um, and we saw volleyball, beach volleyball,
Beach
so
volleyball. Oh, it must be so cool. I mean, in Rio and like Rio and has such great beaches and like the setting for that stuff is like,
yeah, yeah. We just walked. We literally walked out from our hotel, or not hotel, our Airbnb. We're on the beach
yeah.
in Copacabana Beach, and next to us, left to us is NBC Sports and the Canadian whatever, Canadian thing. The
That's
hotels. So we just walked down. We walked to to Copacabana. I mean
awesome. That is so
to
awesome. You get out of your Airbnb and walk, and everything's just there. Like you're in the whole thing.
yeah. I
And
mean, we're
there's
looking
no
at the
view.
ocean. We're looking at yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
the setting was incredible. So.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Oh, excellent, excellent. Um, what athlete would you trade roles with?
That's a good question. Let me think this one. So I like to see. I don't know if I don't know if I trade roles with him.
Mm.
Because I mean, I'm very content what I'm doing right now. But in what's more recency, what I would have loved to see it was what Ali saw. Okay,
Okay.
and how he kind of in a way unified the world, but he kind of divided, then he unified. It's kind of interesting. He went from one to the other extreme, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
You're and
and
just for everybody, to clarify, Muhammad Ali. We're talking about Muhammad Ali right now.
yes, yeah. So he in what I understand, so he was before my era when he was the divider. He was in my
Yeah.
era when he was in uniter. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so Ali, see what that looked like to him,
Yeah.
where he did unify, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
and then that we won one person. I'd like to see, I would like to see what it feels like to be as gifted and talented in tennis as Federer was. Um,
Oh, yeah.
Andy Roddick said in a speech, and I thought I thought it was so poignant and it triggered me, and there's a lot of great speeches. This one triggered me in a way. He said he said he went 12 rounds with Ali. He pitched to Babe Ruth. He saw Picasso paint. And I
That's
think when he was saying Picasso paint, I think he was talking about Federer. I think
yeah.
12 rounds with Ali was um, Nadal, and
Yeah.
when pitching to Ruth was Djokovic. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that, but Picasso paints suggests to me Federer. So Federer, to me, would like to see what he would be, and he's such a unifying athlete
Yep.
through grace and calm and and his beauty, but it's also his remarks,
Yeah.
and he was if you see his early remarks and his late, they're very much the same. He was like a mature guy even at the age of 21, 22, 23, as he was at
Yeah.
30, 36 and 38, so I
Mhm.
think those kind of things, let's see. If I kind of go back in history, what else? Those are ones I would know about. I don't know if I can go through. See, these are individuals, and in terms of team, sports, Namath pulling it off in '69, I want to say
Yeah.
that would be great. Um, Peyton, Walter Payton, with what he did, um,
Yeah.
those kind of things, So those are my kind of era, and then before that, I would love to be as into. I would, in a way, I'd love to see what it was like to for Dick Butkus to be on the same
Yeah.
field as you and what that would mean to you,
Yeah, yeah,
because I think Butkus was considered feared among feared,
yeah.
so and I
He,
have his jersey, so but he was just before my era, so
yeah, he was. I mean, he was the face of Monsters of Midway, that type of
yeah,
thing.
I
So,
mean, yeah, it's a great story about him, but when you see him, you actually see him kind of like almost like you know there was a movie recently. I want to say it was one of the it was one of the movies of Jurassic Park. It was just a recent one, and this and basically this big dinosaur, land-based dinosaurs, is being whole being swallowed up by this huge, gigantosaurus or something from the sea. All of a sudden you see him just, the gigantosaur just just swallow up, or swallow this huge T-Rex like, you know
mhm.
and because he's so much bigger. And that's what you saw that you saw Butkus do. He just kind of all of a sudden you see Butkus going after someone, and then you don't see the other. Then you don't see the player. Because Butkus is so much bigger. He just and the way he tackled, apparently he tackled in a way in which the guy can only do his fall. So.
That's awesome. That's hilarious. Um, you didn't ask you, but what's your favorite jersey number?
Oh boy. So I think I saw that I tried to look at any of the questions or anything or the other. I remember reading your podcast. I'm not reading, but seeing your podcast, and you were asked the same question. I thought that's when I was like, wow, you just happen to have so much knowledge of it. So, when my favorite number on an athlete would have been 12 or 32. Um,
12 or 32 or 12
yeah,
to 32?
no, 12 or 32.
Okay.
And that's because all the quarterbacks were 12 and all the
Yeah.
and when we were there, this is OJ Simpson was the big guy,
Yeah,
and he
the
did the
running back.
2000 and stuff like that. Now I know all the aftermath, I get it, but those were the childhood ones.
Yeah.
So those would be those would be the two numbers on an athlete,
Cool
so.
numbers. Super cool numbers. But not Walter Payton's 34.
So Peyton was awesome, but
Yeah.
Peyton came in at a time just after. So so Peyton was great when I was 12 years old. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
11, 12, 13, 14. I was already independent by then. So
Uh,
you tend to believe and idolize the guys, at least I did, who were earlier in your years, like the 6, 7,
yeah,
8 years old, because
yeah,
they're just so bigger than life, and you don't
yeah.
have as much independence. You just see them as a different level of hero. So that's how, so it'd be Namath or, at that time, if I'm not mistaken, all the quarterbacks were wearing 12s, most of the
Yeah,
quarterbacks.
yeah. Bradshaw was there in the 70s
Bradshaw
that
was in.
way.
I
Right.
want to say
Joe Namath.
Starbuck was too, and it was also
Yes,
Unitas. And I
correct.
didn't see Unitas play, but he was
Yeah.
just out of sports. But he was talked reverently,
Yeah.
So
No, yeah. No, Unitas was 19. That was different. But I'm
19.
with you with 12. Everybody else was Bart Starr was 12. Um,
I would
yeah,
name it for sure. You know,
Namath was Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw. Those are all the great quarterbacks of that era that way. And then 32. So then I mean OJ Simpson, and I believe that Jim Brown was 32 also at that
yeah,
point.
Brown was, and he was
Yeah.
before me.
Yeah.
I never heard or saw much of Brown.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Snail Bite, we are now at what I like to call crunch time, where I'm going to give you a rapid fire questions. You just give me the first thing that comes to your mind, and just go with it. Go with it. Sound good?
Sounds good. Let's go for it.
All right, here we go. So, are you coffee or chai person?
Am I a coffee? Oh, neither. I better stay away from both of those. Um,
Nice. Okay, so you don't
My
have a.
kid, my girls have me drink this something from Dunkin' Donuts. Boy, I got to get this one right. They'll kill me if I don't. I think something is uh iced caramel something with almond milk. God,
Iced
I'm
caramel
drunk in a
mocha.
rush. If they hear this, Dad, don't you know this? I sometimes text my oldest daughter what am I supposed to order before I go? So. I never drink.
Oh,
I find that I'd never really drink either. So
well, okay. Yeah, pretty cool. Very interesting. So are you a suit guy or a Shervani guy?
a suit guy or what?
Or a Shervani?
Sure. Oh, gosh. Depending on the occasion, I'm flexible. I don't have a one way or the other.
Okay.
depending. I was wearing a tuxedo in the wedding in Dubai, so but that's because there's a black tie, and usually, but at your wedding, so it was different. So
Yeah, no, at my wedding you were wearing a what do you call it, Shervani? I remember that.
yep, I did. All the
Yeah.
weddings I wore Shivani, hardly ever
Yeah.
did suits.
Yeah. Uh, are you ice cream or kulfi?
Oh my goodness. Okay, okay. I look. If I had Goofy all the time as much as ice cream, I would probably choose ice cream. But when I have Goofy less than ice cream, I would
Hmm.
choose Goofy because it's more rare. But if I had them
Okay.
equally, so I would. But see, in St. Louis, we don't have ice cream. We have custard. So and
Yeah.
it's creamier. So so it's good. So, but I think I think you got to broaden your question to gelatos, Goofy, ice cream, custard like that. So.
I don't. Yeah, I don't go with gelato. I mean, I love gelato, but yeah, I don't think it stands up to ice cream. So, Statue of Liberty or Taj Mahal?
Oh, Liberty.
Liberty.
Oh yeah.
Christmas or Diwali?
Mm. Boy, it's hard to know, right? No, hard to. You're asking impossibly, depending on the frame of question, the frame of mind, which one you'd be. Diwali is pretty awesome. So is Christmas. I think you spend more time in the U.S. I think Christmas seems to be where, yeah, I would say Christmas, but it'd be close. I mean, yeah, I would say Christmas. I'd spend more time in the U.S. with Christmas.
Um, if you met your favorite athlete for dinner, where would you take them, or what would you feed them?
Oh, my favorite athlete. What do I? Um, Shoot. Where would I take him? Where I take him to I don't know if that's a good question. Let me think. Okay, I would feed them the stuff that I like to eat. So be chicken curry. The one at your wedding, the most perfect chicken curry ever. I told your father-in-law too, and I said, and he told me, and I've not taken him over the offers. It's anytime you come to Detroit, I'll take you there. And I should call him or text him about that. I said, but
Well,
so they're not in Detroit now, so
he's over here now, so
I know he's not in Detroit. I missed that opportunity, but it was the most perfect chicken curry I've ever had. So I did chicken curry. I would probably do that, for myself. At least I know one of us will be satisfied.
That's awesome. Uh, so with that, Snail Bite, this has been awesome. I've
Oh
totally appreciated it that way. And thank you so much for being on here.
no, thanks, man. I appreciate the call out. This is great. I loved it. I enjoyed it myself.
This is
Hope you
awesome.
got hope you got hope you got what you wanted.
Oh yeah, I definitely did. It was great. It was pure gold as always, my friend. You know it that way. All
Thank you.
right.
All right,
You tell the
all right.
friend I
Get
said
some.
hello.
I will do that, and likewise, and give my best to everyone out there. Okay,
Yeah.
stay cool,
All
man.
right.
This fire stuff is crazy. I was out for a week, so I'm just looking at this morning like, what the heck, man? Every
Cool.
year.
All right, I'm gonna sign off to
Sorry.
this is for all our teammates out there. Thank you so much for listening as always. We'll catch you soon. Lots of love as always. Good game, good sportsmanship. Take care. Bye.
All right. Thanks.